You ever see a man walk into a room like he owns its smirk carved on his face? Eyes spit out contempt like he can't even stand the way your walls are painted? Yeah, I saw that. That's how it all started. Just one of those mornings that looks quiet on the surface. Coffee cooling in your cup. Old newspaper in your lap. World spinning like it's always spun. And then bam, that's it. No warning, no knock. The door bursts open and suddenly, you're not in your own house anymore. You're in his because he's the law in this neighborhood, or so he says. I'll never forget the way his fist came out of nowhere, how he thought nobody saw. Just another day, another old man bruised into silence. But someone did see. A shout from the sidewalk. Stop right now. Cold enough to freeze your blood, sharp enough to cut through any lie a man like that could make up. You hear a voice like that, and suddenly you gotta ask yourself, which side of the line am I on? If it was your loved one, would you stay quiet? Or would you challenge everything you were taught to never question? You stick around, see what happens when justice either stands up or folds in on itself. Because let's be honest, America's got a way of looking you in the eye and daring you to believe. So let me back up a sec. Let you see the man who lost everything that morning. Samuel Brooks. He woke up at 4 a.m., no alarm needed, just muscle memory from all those years teaching kids nobody else would bother with. You know, the tippy man who spent 40 years telling kids it was okay to dream, even if nobody else wanted them to. The kind of man who never owned much, but wore dignity like a second skin, his house on Maple Street tucked at the end, small, wooden, full of stories. He had this old gold watch on his tea table, not a thing of wealth, just memory heavy as iron. His father's watch, you see. Elijah Brooks, first black mailman in the county, the one who got tied to a post just for reading a book in the wrong place. That's the only thing the cops didn't rip away that day, the watch. Samuel never let go, his fingers calloused from chalk, from holding on to hope, even when hope looked a lot like stubbornness. And then the door flew open. Clint Harris strutted in, 30-something, white, chest like a billboard for arrogance, badge gleaming, gun flashing from his belt like punctuation. These days, you black folks got all kinds of tricks. But there's drugs in this house. Every word, rehearsed like he'd said it 100 times before. Mr. Brooks didn't rise to it. He just folded his paper, stared back calm as a stone. You step into my house without a warrant. You think that's legal? Clint just smirked, showing off the Glock. I'm the law here, old man. Paperwork's got nothing on my sidearm. Samuel stood, straight as he ever was behind a lectern. I taught your chief. Don't make us teach you how to behave. It landed, God, it landed. Clint's face cracked just a little. And then, the slur. You could feel the temperature drop. He went for the watch, held it up like evidence. What's this stolen off a corpse? Loot from a robbery. Mr. Brooks just said, it was my father's. He was tied to a post in this town square for daring to read. And Clint kept turning that watch, looking for something to charge, but all he found was a reminder that a black man once lived here with pride. That watch wasn't a trinket, it was proof. And Clint hated that proof. Hated that an old man could look him in the eye and not flinch. He picked up a photo off the shelf, a group of kids, Samuel younger, hope shining from every face. Dropped it just to hear the glass break, to prove that in his world, memories didn't matter. Then he said, I see an old man with expensive stuff. I get suspicious. That gives me the right to search. He stood there in the middle of the room like everything inside memories, photos, dignity belonged to him. When Samuel bent to pick up the broken frame, Clint grabbed his wrist, squeezing until bones ground together. You think talking pretty will make me back off? And before Samuel could even answer, he got shoved into his chair so hard the wood cracked against the wall. Humiliation served cold, deliberate, in front of every ghost in that house. But Samuel just sat, gripping the armrest, staring at Clint like he'd stared down 100 men before him. No fear, just resignation. This wasn't about a search. This was punishment, no verdict needed. Clint leaned in. Back in my day, we just slap on the cuffs and drag you out. Now this human rights stuff killing the cops. It wasn't an excuse. It was a confession. He believed the world owed him obedience, and he couldn't stand that someone like Samuel dared to resist. The room pressed in, memories bleeding through the walls. Samuel remembered getting jumped for teaching, his mother crying over land denied, students expelled for not being white. He believed education could change people, but now he saw it power's poison didn't come from ignorance. It came from entitlement. And then it escalated. The scarf came out, quick and practiced, yanked tight around Samuel's throat. Clint moved like he'd done this before, eyes cold as steel. Samuel fought for breath, hands clawing at the cloth, blood rising in his face. But even then, his legs wouldn't give. 40 years teaching, and he wouldn't go down easy. You can't, Samuel tried to speak, but Clint cut him off with a fist, bone on bone, blood spraying across the window. Samuel blinked, tested if he was still awake, still alive. He was broken but alive. The noise brought the neighbors Lisa from across the street, two young men who'd once been boys in Samuel's class. Stop! That's Mr. Samuel. The three of them froze at the door, stunned, helpless. Clint just dragged Samuel a few more steps, slammed him into a table, gun out, shouting, "One more step, and you're joining him in heaven." But the neighbors didn't back down. Nobody moved. The air was thick, waiting for something to break. But Samuel still bracing himself, still refusing to fall, even as blood ran down his chin. It wasn't pride. It was survival. Clint paused, expecting him to crumble, but he didn't. That's when a horn blared outside Dia Patrol, a witness. Nobody knew for sure, but it rattled Clint. He looked at the door, felt the shift. The neighborhood wasn't silent. It was watching. And then the twist. The voice in the doorway, low, strong, calm as a judge. "Take your hand off my grandfather's neck. Right now." Marcus Coleman, Samuel's grandson, walked in wearing a Navy suit, badge in his pocket, every step measured, not afraid, not here for a fight, here for justice. He pulled out a recorder, badge glinting, words falling like stone. "Every word you say is evidence in court." Clint tried to laugh it off, but the badge killed it. Evidence? "I'm not scared of you." Marcus didn't care. Assault, attempted murder, abuse of authority. Take your pick. Clint realized the tide had turned. People outside with phones, recording, watching. He knew he was outnumbered now. The scarf loosened. Samuel gasped, relief pouring through lungs that had almost given up. But pain ripped through his chest sharp, sudden, too much. Marcus caught him as he collapsed, voice urgent. "Call an ambulance." 72 years old, attacked by a cop, cardiac arrest. The crowd outside didn't wait for orders. They moved. They called. They documented. Clint shrugged, still trying to play the tough guy. "You think I'll get sued over some old black guy?" But nobody was listening anymore. Marcus knelt by his grandfather, grief and fury barely kept in check. "You'll be convicted of murder, and I'll be the one to take you to court." Time shrank. The room held its breath. Samuel's chest stopped moving, eyes open, searching for a final light. "Gone." Mrs. Lisa cried. The young men burned with shame and rage. The neighbors watched, every single one now a witness. Clint backed away, gun limp in his hand, mask slipping from his face. For the first time, he was afraid. Marcus squeezed Samuel's hand one last time, then let go. The ambulance arrived, medics hustling, but the story had already changed. That night, Marcus posted the video, no edits, no drama, just truth. "My grandfather did not die on his own. He was killed by the police." No hashtags, no campaign, just a single sentence. But the world did the rest. Hashtag Justice for Brooks exploded. Comments, some bitter, some statistics, some questions no one wanted to answer. If he'd been white, would it have happened? The media tried to keep up, but the video spoke louder than any headline. Candlelight vigils started. The town woke up, signs in windows, flyers on counters, white and black neighbors standing together for once, because to stay silent was to be guilty too. People told their own stories. Old wounds reopened, cases once buried, complaints once dismissed. And Clint Harris? He watched the world strip away every mask he'd ever worn. The legal team worked fast. Charges stacked, murder, abuse, every name, every detail, all documented. When Marcus filed the suit, he said, "This isn't just for my grandfather. It's so that anyone who thinks skin color is a reason to use violence will have to pay." That line made the news, but the real verdict came from the people. The trial was something else. The courtroom full, sunlight streaking across the floor. Marcus played the body cam no drama. Just the sound of violence, the crack of bone, the choke of cloth. The defense tried to paint Clint as a hero, but Marcus shut it down. Kindness can't be a tint over spilled blood. Past good doesn't erase a present crime. And then came the letter from a kid at the orphanage. Clumsy handwriting, pure truth. I lost my first teacher because of someone wearing the clothes of justice. No one moved as Marcus read. We don't need pity. We need what's right. Deliberations took hours. Marcus sat, waiting, files untouched. Clint, for the first time, couldn't hide his fear. When the jury came back, the judge's voice was calm. Clint Harris, life in prison, no parole. The room didn't cheer, just let it land. Let it heal, let it mean something. Marcus spoke, not in victory, but in purpose. This isn't a win. It's proof. Proof the law can do what's right. He didn't look at Harris as the cuffs went on didn't need to. The silence of the gallery said enough. Outside, the town waited. The applause was slow, steady acknowledgement, not celebration. People stood together, the old and young, sunlight catching on the courthouse steps, the world rolling on but different now. Justice, Marcus realized, wasn't the strike of a gavel, but the way ordinary people refused to look away. The old house on Maple Street stayed quiet. Marcus found the box, the letter inside. Samuel's words courage isn't about winning. It's about standing when no one else will. Justice isn't a gift, it's a responsibility. That afternoon, at the school where Samuel taught for decades, the crowd gathered. No speeches, just stories, memories, laughter, and tears. So here's my question to you, because you're part of this now. If it was your family, your grandfather, your neighbor, would you stay silent? Or would you stand up, draw that line, and hold it no matter who tried to cross? Tell me below. Let's talk about right and wrong, about justice, about how we all decide where the line really is.